Fred?
That I should have worn tonight.
We're going to call the Wednesday, August 6, 2014 Manistee City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, can you please take the roll?
Mayor Kenny.
Here.
Councilmember Cody.
Here.
Councilmember Harnkle.
Here.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zaring.
Here.
Councilmember Whitliff.
Here.
Councilmember Gusted.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
DPW Director.
Here.
Finance Director.
Here.
Planning and Zoning Director.
Here.
And City Engineer.
Here.
Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. Citizen comments and agenda-related items. This is the portion of the meeting. If anyone in attendance has a comment on tonight's agenda, to please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to comment on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All agenda items marked with an asterisk are on the consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, approval of payroll, cash balances report, notification regarding next work session, consideration of a bottle drive fundraiser for the North Fire Dance Company, and consideration of the annual MSDDA Hops and Props event. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
I'll make a motion the council take action to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hornko, support by Councilmember Cody to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any issues?
Still don't believe in the sewer water rate study, so I'm going to vote no on this one too.
Consent agenda.
I understand that. It's on approval of minutes.
Any others? Seeing none, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Cody.
Yes.
Councilmember Harnkle.
Yes.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
No?
Mayor Kenny.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zaring.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitliff.
Yes.
Councilmember Gusted.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. Consideration of purchasing a 2014 Volvo BL70 backhoe. The Department of Public Works has operated 4 demonstration backhoes and solicited competitive proposals to purchase a new backhoe unit with a hydraulic hammer attachment. The Volvo BL70 scored the second highest among the operators and mechanic and has been determined to be the best value. The cost below also includes trading in our existing 1990 JCB backhoe. $80,000 has been budgeted in the motor pool for this fiscal year. The different bids were the John Deere 310 SK for $82,912. The operator score was 9. The Volvo BL70 for $77,175. The operator score was 7. The Caterpillar 420 FCP for $88,358. The operator score was 6.5. And the JCB 3CX-14 Super, $77,900, and the operator score was 4.8. Is there a motion to take action to approve the purchase of the 2014 Volvo?
I'll make a motion the council take action to approve the purchase of the 2014 Volvo BL70 with hydraulic hammer and extended warranty from Alta Equipment in the amount of $77,175.
I'll support Bobby.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hornko, support by Councilmember Cody to approve the purchase of the 2014 Volvo.
What's the difference in the operators' scores?
We did this process a little bit differently. As opposed to just soliciting for competitive bids, we actually went to the 4 equipment manufacturers, or not manufacturers, but vendors in northern Michigan that sold different equipment, and we identified 4 of them. Each of those companies brought their machine that are all equal, if you will, in power resources and that sort of thing. Depending on the jobs we had available and the staff that was working, we had as many operators use those machines as possible. And then we sat down as a group and we went through the pros and cons of each of those machines and then I had all the operators and the mechanic rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Unanimously, they felt that the John Deere was the best machine, and all of this was done without any component of money being involved. We then solicited for actual prices on the trade-in, the hammer attachment, and then the machine itself. The way this is written up is to purchase the Volvo, but the guys, since I have submitted this, have also made a plea that they believe that the John Deere is the best machine, and the mechanic also believes that it will have lower cycle costs for maintenance as it moves forward. I do need to point out that the amount that was budgeted is $80,000, and when we add the extended warranty to that John Deere, it puts us a little bit over that edge. But if the council would be willing to consider the purchase of that John Deere, we could pay for that extended warranty out of our maintenance budget, because it does extend the warranty out from 1 year out to 5 years.
What's the difference between the Volvo and the John Deere mechanically? I mean, why is the John Deere more expensive than the Volvo?
I can't tell you why one's more expensive, although the Volvo had a less expensive hydraulic hammer, but they were willing to give more on the trade-in. So when you boil those all down, it does add up to about a $5,700 difference.
Sometimes the lowest bid isn't always the best bid. That's,
Well,
you know.
and I believe the Volvo is a very good machine. It's not like the Volvo doesn't have something that the John Deere has. The key things that the operators said was the comfort with the controls, the ease of visibility while operating the machine. The mechanic specifically pointed out that the vendor that sells the John Deere, we've got existing relationships with and work with all the time, and they serve us extremely well. Alta equipment, we don't have a history with. I'm sure that they would do a fine job. So personally, I'm okay with either machine, but I'm standing here because the operators asked me to voice that.
You don't operate the machines.
I never
Yeah.
even sat in it.
Jeff, what is the warranty on the Volvo?
5 years.
They're both 5 years. Both
So
of
they are
those,
both 5.
Yeah, both of those prices include a 5-year extended warranty. And the other thing that is important to understand is that this isn't something we're going to have for a few years. This is a 16, 17-year obligation when we buy it. So we wanted to get their input because this is a long-term purchase for us.
Do you have any history on maintenance costs between the two?
I don't personally have any history. Mickey did some calling around this week and was just checking things like filter prices, windshields, because we break glass when you're operating them, those type of things. And he felt that the John Deere was less expensive to maintain.
Did he give any indication, ballpark, $1,000 a year, $500 a year, parts, any
He
kind of?
didn't, but the difference in the price over a 16-year period is about $300 a year, just in the purchase acquisition. So I think that gets eaten up pretty fast just with the regular maintenance items.
Jeff, does the hammer come with this, with the John Deere?
With both of them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And when we originally budgeted for this, we budgeted $80,000, but found that the municipal sales from each of these vendors is so competitive that they actually discount the cost of these machines down substantially, like over 50%. And so we were able to add the hydraulic hammer as an add-on to this machine. When we've had main breaks on 31, places where we got concrete roads, even in the frost, we've been renting a machine from Grand Rental, and it's been costing us about $400 to $500 each time we do that. So buying this gives us the ability to use it at night on the weekends when that rental's not available, and it expands our abilities. So
I've
all inclusive.
seen that John Deere has always been a nice product.
Yeah.
I deal with them on the marine side, so very good, dependable product.
I feel that, I think we should really take the John Deere. It's gonna, last us and less maintenance and even though it's 5,000 more.
Well, we have a mechanic, we should kind of trust their input in on it, and as stated earlier here, that John Deere is a good, reliable product. I have no problem saying yes to the John Deere myself.
I'd like to say, first of all, Jeff, I commend you for reaching out to your members, your staff, your employees to weigh in on that. Truth is, I've been on the receiving end of a number of ivory tower purchases that got in the field and were half as productive as they could have been if they would involve some of the operators in the field. And I couldn't agree more with my counterparts up here about, $5,000 over an 18-year lifespan is minimal for effective operation, reduction in costs of maintenance and upkeep, and I would completely support the John Deere over the Volvo in that respect. So, thank you.
Why are we purchasing versus lease? Because of the length of time?
Yeah, we did look at the leasing options, and they weren't quite as cost effective for us.
So I have a question that if we decide that we would like to go with John Deere, do we amend the motion and?
You could have a motion made to amend this motion and vote on that, and then back on the principal motion if you choose.
We'll just vote it down.
I'll make that motion to amend the current motion to, that we make the motion to purchase the John Deere. I'll make that.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Councilmember Cody and a support by Councilmember Hornkel to amend the motion to purchase the John Deere 310 SK backhoe.
So basically what we're voting on right now is just to approve the amendment to the motion, and then we'll vote on the motion. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Just want to make that clear in my head. So.
Any issue with the amendment? Can you please take the roll on?
Councilmember Goodsby?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitliff?
Yes.
Councilmember Cody?
Yes.
Councilmember Gustin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Zaring?
Yes.
Councilmember Harnkle?
Yes.
And Mayor Kenny?
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, now the motion we have on the floor is to purchase the John Deere 310 SK backhoe. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zaring? I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Zaring.
Oh, that's okay. Yes.
Councilmember Whitliff?
Yes.
Councilmember Gustin?
Yes.
Councilmember Goodsby?
Yes.
Councilmember Harnkle?
Yes.
Councilmember Cody?
Yes.
And Mayor Kenny?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to notices, communication, and announcements. A report from the engineer of record and the utilities department. A regular part of each council meeting is a report from a cooperating agency, organization, or department. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Sean Middleton, who will report on the activities of the engineer of record, the Spicer Group, and respond to any questions.
Well, while they're getting that up, I guess. My name's Sean Middleton with Spicer Group, as many of you are aware. I just want to start out by thanking the mayor and city council for the opportunity to, speak about our role as engineer of record with the city of Manistee. What I'd like to do is just go over kind of three items quickly here, because I know we've got a long agenda tonight. A little background on Spicer Group, brief background, talk about our presence here in the city of Manistee, and then get into some of the projects we've been working on, and more specifically how those projects have relate to your strategic plan. So I'm going to talk through some items that are identified in the strategic plan and what we're working on that tends to parallel those. Then we have a few miscellaneous projects I'll list. And then finally, I want to our company is pretty big on technology. and trying to make things efficient and get a lot of productivity out. And we have some technology, mobile mapping, that at some point we're going to utilize here in Manistee as part of the SAW grant, or ideally earlier if we can work out a way to do that with some projects. And I just want to highlight that process a little bit. So our company, Spicer Group, was founded in 1944. We're a full-service company. We do all phases of engineering, planning, surveying, architecture. Basically anything a city, county, or township would need is pretty much the role we'll fill. We currently have 160 employees. We have offices across the state of Michigan, is listed there. And we're looking at opening a couple new offices right now, one in Dundee, and probably most importantly, an office here in the city of Manistee. So we were awarded the contract in October of 2013. And we started working on the SAW grant, was our first task. But we're kind of been easing in and getting familiar with how the city of Manistee operates. We've been looking at office space. We're currently looking at this fall wanting to open an office at 302 River Street. It's right next to the flower shop. And we're working with the landowner. It needs some work inside. We're going to be doing some facade work. And so ideally we'll be moved in there in the fall. With those improvements in place. As far as staffing in that office, I think a lot of you know Pat Bentley. He's worked with the city for a long time, long-term from the area, and he's a professional surveyor. He's going to be one of our main points of contact out of the office. Myself will be in the office quite a bit. I split my time here. I have a second home in the city, and I spent a lot of time in town, so between Pat and I will be the main points of contact, or we have been. We have a lot of supporting staff. I'm not going to go through names. A lot of these names city staff recognize because they've been actively working on a lot of the projects. And if we need somebody else, we can pull from other portions of our company. Moving on to the projects, I looked at, I've seen your strategic plan. I've talked to Mitch about it, and there's really two areas I think that we've been involved so far, with city infrastructure and with beaches, parks, and recreational areas, at different levels of involvement. And so I'm going to kind of walk through a couple of the goals. One of your goals is to evaluate, develop, and oversee an asset management plan for restoration, preservation, and maintenance of city-owned assets. I think there's two main areas we've been involved with. The first one is the submittal of the SAW grant application, which went in last year, the end of last year. And that really addresses this because it's going to focus on your asset management related to stormwater assets and wastewater assets. The whole grant is really mostly driven around that. Inventory, condition assessment, getting a handle on what the value of it is, what its condition is, how maybe a capital improvement plan eventually might be laid out to address any issues you might identify. Another part of that is a very specific part towards the design of the EQ basin to eliminate CSO, combined sewer overflow number 18. And some of those design is built into that grant application, and that will dovetail with work that's currently being done. So that was a SAW grant in terms of asset management. The other component related to asset management is your street improvement committee, that's ad hoc committee that's currently formed that we've been working on over the past year. And our role has been, we're brought up to speed by staff. We reviewed PASER ratings and the current asset management plan. I drove all the city streets with the DPW director. I drove them myself. We put together a database of every street segment in the city. There's 700 plus segments in the city. We've put into a database and put into a GIS format. So we've pulled all that information together. We've got mapping. We have a tentative preliminary transportation improvement program that we're going to be working with the ad hoc committee on very closely in the next couple of weeks and months. I think we have a meeting scheduled for next week. So that's another component of asset management specific to streets. Another strategy was to maintain full compliance with NPDES fixed date combined sewer separation schedule, basically some of your permit requirements. And we've been involved both directly and indirectly. Indirectly, we've been attending some meetings, both with Abbenmarsh, the DEQ, and the city to see how the SSES study is progressing and the project plan. and just making sure we're well acquainted with that process, because we are going to be dovetailing into the end of that with some of our design work ultimately down the road to meet some permit requirements. More directly, we've been involved. There's a small combined sewer overflow at the Terrace Apartments, and that's in between the river and the apartments. And there's a weir there. We're going to be replacing that with a fixed wall and cutting that off. So we're going to eliminate that small CSO. That's scheduled for work this fall, pending some permit reviews and getting some bids in. And then we're also installing a pressure transducer at your larger CSO, combined sewer overflow number 18, that we can monitor levels and depths over the weir, and that'll give us a lot more accurate accounting of how much water is being released in a given CSO. We'll be able to get data on 1 and 5 minute increments as opposed to maybe a couple times a day. So another goal is to explore options for public-private partnerships, and 2 projects that we're in the very front end of right now. We're going to work with the Alliance for Economic Success and looking at the 9th Street boat launch. I think everybody's aware there's some property issues, I guess not issues, but it's got to work through some property rights there to build this, potentially build this plan. So we'll be looking at some renderings, assistance there with the Alliance for Economic Success, and eventually maybe helping with the grant process. Another item that came up more recently was the First Street boat launch with some of the discussions on fishing from the docks. It was brought to our attention that maybe potentially we could look for a grant to put a fishing platform in that vicinity that would be accessible and just provide another alternate for fishing in that region. And so we're also going to work with Alliance for Economic Success to see if there's a potential road we can go down and looking at grants there. Switching over to city beaches, parks, and recreation areas. One comment, one cheer from the crowd. Is one specifically listed the Fifth Avenue Beach, Pavilion, and picnic areas. We're very early in this process. We've put together some preliminary renderings that we will be working with city staff and the Parks and Beautification Commission on. So it's at the front end of it, and we need to get a lot of feedback from the commission and everything, but we're starting that process, so we're working towards that as well. I'm not going to go through all these projects, but these are some of the other projects we have kind of on the docket. Some are completed, some we're working on, some are upcoming. It's a variety of small projects, some street projects, some wastewater projects, all kind of mixed in. And I'd be happy to answer questions on it later on if anybody would like to discuss any one of these, but due to time, I'll keep moving. So I guess that does kind of summarize the project work we're doing. Just to finish up, I want to talk about this technology we have for mobile mapping. And so this is, as I mentioned, we're always looking for new technologies, and basically what we have is a piece of survey equipment, and Pat could tell you a lot more of the details of it, but it's that on the top of that vehicle, you can see it there, and this is this zooms in on it. It's a mobile mapping surveying unit, and what it does is it collects 2 primary things. Photo information, and it laser scans. And so that unit will spin at 200 times per second and will send out over a million laser points per second. And as it's going down the road, it's sending those points out, hits something and bounces back, and it gives you an XYZ coordinate on every single point. So we're getting a million of these points a second. And at the same time, it's taking 6 photos, kind of like Google Maps would do, looking forward, looking behind the machine, 6 photos every second. And so we're constantly taking photos. So, and to do all that, there's a GPS unit on it. There's a inertial mechanism on it that measures pitch, yaw, and roll, and all these things, and pulls all that data together so we can bring it back into the office. And we can do that driving down the road at posted speeds. We collect information on highways at 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. We can mount this on anything we want to. We have put it on some rivers, even some rivers with fairly steep gradients. And on boats, we can put it in ATVs. We've done a lot of trails with the unit, so it's we can move it around. It fits in a case. We've flown it on planes to places. it picks up everything you can see. So everything you can see from the truck, it's going to pick up. So it won't pick up something behind a car or behind a tree, but basically it's going to pick up everything you can see as you drive down the road. It's basically moving all the data you collect in the field back to the office where you can look at it in a controlled environment. Like I mentioned, we can pick up as much as 100 miles of this data a day. And then it's collecting photos on a 360-degree view. And I apologize for the on the screen here. I think it's a little harder to see, but I believe it looks better on your computers. So I'm just going to really quickly just go through some of the data. This is just this isn't a photo. This is the data we collect. This is literally hundreds of points, and every one of those points has a X, Y, and Z coordinate to it. And if you zoom in, if you look at it closely, you can see the wires. You can see all the conductors or the insulators. All those little details you can pick up on this. The reason we bought this was because it can be used with standard GIS, and there's a free add-on that we can get to the city and show them how to use it. So when the data is collected with this free piece of software, you can go in and measure between points. You can pick on a point to get an elevation. There's a lot of things where, if the DPW department wanted to know how wide is a street or where something was, they can just go in and find it and measure on it. This is just more examples of what the data looks like. It's again, this is all points. You can read the sign in detail. The colors represent elevation. You can change the colors to be whatever you want. But in this case, it represents the elevation, red being high and yellow being low. One of the main reasons we want to use it here in the city is eventually for the SAW or for your street assessment. So here you can see just a road, curb and gutter. We've got catch basin inlets we can pick up very easily. We can tie those down very precisely and get elevations on them. Another view, same thing. You can see detailed curb and gutter because different things reflect differently. So a striping, painting will reflect differently. You can see it on here. Again, this isn't a photo. This is data points, a whole bunch of points that were collected from the laser. So this could be done at midnight, pitch black, and it would still look the same. I think this could be very valuable looking at streets down the road. So here's an example of just a manhole. But if you look closely at it on the right, this is what the software looks like. So on the right, you see the photo. On the left, you see the data. And so you can see cracks. You can see the manhole. Wherever we pick on that manhole, we can get an elevation on the left. But if you look really closely at it, those cracks actually show up in the data. So we can measure lengths of cracks, widths of cracks, and really kind of get a sense of it. So it's hard to imagine the detail we have here, but we're collecting at 1 million points per second. So again, just more photos showing. Here's a curb line. Here's a hydrant. You see the hydrant on the right. You can see how the data was picked up on the hydrant. So instead of taking one benchmark shot on the top, we have the whole hydrant's been painted. Water valves, signs, those are all things that can be done with this. Again, it's another manhole picture here just to give you a sense of it. So this technology is just, kind of on the cusp right now. There's a lot of things we can do: project planning, construction, maintenance, operations. And I'm not going to go through all the details of this, but it's kind of endless. You get into other ideas with tourism. We've seen tours of entire cities. You could take a tour of your entire city in 3D. So I kind of flew through that fast, and I know there's other people stacked up behind me to talk, so I just wanted to get that across. But I do want to take questions between the projects or this technology, whatever.
I have a question, Sean, about that level of detail. And are we looking at a future for grants being that level of detail? Or is that helpful in having that level of detail for grant requests and funding that come in the future?
First of all, yes. That it just creates a situation where, if you can think, we used to go back and look at USGS maps and aerials, and then you'd pick a few elevation points up. And now if Mitch came, to Denise or Jeff asked a question on a project, they can pull it up and say, oh yeah, the road's 32 feet wide. It's all cracked up. We just we know so much immediately. And then for submittals, because you have the data, so you have to process and do some things probably to it. but it's still, it's at your fingertips. And so I think it could be used for, grants would just be one of many, many things.
So it would improve the amount of time it takes to develop the grants because you have the data available readily in that respect. And I know one of the grants we received previous years, it was because it was kind of a shovel-ready project, we had the detail to it. You see that being that type of technology to support,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly. I kind of glanced over it, but one of the projects, we have 2 road projects we're looking at designing this winter, one for small urban, one to be shovel-ready.
Shovel-ready.
And then what we're looking at doing is taking the normal fees we'd have had to do conventional, applying those and using mobile mapping. And then you have a lot of data in the can for other things, so a water main job or water service or something down the road.
Mm-hmm.
John, would you put up the plan for Fifth Avenue Beach, please? A lot better plan than I did. You stole my thunder tonight.
Well, I apologize for that, Ed.
I was going to do it during my comment period.
Well, I could give you a head start on it then.
Passed it.
Oh, it's back up. I'm sorry.
Slow down.
Don't tell me you lost.
There.
Right there.
There you go. Yeah, open for comments on that, but I thought we were just looking for a couple cabanas around the tree with a sidewalk going to it, and we can put some dune grass in there, and one large one for a larger facility, for a larger party there. I thought you did a nice job in putting that together. A little different than what I was thinking, but I kind of like it. The thing that maybe missing out is maybe a horseshoe pit, but I mean, that comes later, that's nothing. But I mean, as far as the overall concept, I kind of like that. Did a nice job.
And I think the key there is it's just a rendering. We can do them relatively quickly, and it's intended to start discussion. So, that is clearly, I think, between a lot of people, we'll have to tweak it whatever we need to, but at least it's a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for taking some of my ideas and putting it in place like that.
It made sense.
Any other comments? Any other comments for John?
Yeah. Well, I got one more comment. It's on 5th and Ramsdale, your CSO 18. You're going to put down flow meters and stuff like that to judge the flow for rain events and stuff like that. My comment to that is that's a good idea. That way you're going to find out the shock waves going to the plant. And I know you already know that, but that's very important when we shut that thing off to know what's coming down the pike.
Right.
Yeah, that's good thinking.
And this is just one item. It's a relatively low-cost item we can do to get levels, but then because the weir's there, we can calculate flow and really get a handle on what's going on there. In terms of flow metering, those are, I think, some other discussions that are going on as well that need to be completed. So I agree, it's very critical to finding out, sizing that basin.
Find out now, but instead of after you patch it off.
Get one chance.
320, the Century Terrace Apartments, which is the CSO 8, is that the one that we had problems with the outflow?
Yes.
Okay, so you will be eliminating that outflow,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Sean, you had also talked about in the renderings that you had up there, is this the same technology that you're going to use when we've asked you to look at 12th Street between Oak and Maple? Councilmember Gustet has asked several times about where that particular project is at. Can you just kind of speak to where you guys are at with that particular project for us? I probably should have asked you in advance of that.
So we typically do 3 types of rendering. I think that's kind of important to know up front is we do 2-dimensional color renderings like you've seen for 5th Avenue. We do 3-dimensional renderings, which are literally a 3-dimensional model of the area, and then you can kind of look around it. And then we do photo renderings where you take a picture and modify it to look like you want. What was asked for was a photo rendering, and the guy that does that for me was out. But another guy was in, and he actually did put together a pretty good looking 3D rendering of 12 existing and proposed that I have ready to talk or to discuss.
Great.
So
Great.
literally on probably a little fine tweaking to it, it's ready to go. So we have that. If you want the photo rendering, it might be a week for him to come back.
The opportunity was right to answer a couple questions. We're probably floating in some council members' heads.
Okay.
Any other comments? Thank you, Sean. It's been a pleasure working with you so far.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Mutual.
Next, we'll hear from Ms. Jody Banks, who will report on the activities of the wastewater treatment plant. or Jeff?
We're actually going to change
They
the
chose
order of
I was
this,
going to say, gee,
the order of
Jody.
this presentation because I was going to do a section at the end that deals specifically with that CSO 18. But because you're talking about it now, we're going to advance it to right away.
Yes, Jeff?
Okay.
My
Since Sean just did his presentation and he used a lot of acronyms out there, and because we were talking about CSO 18, actually, can I just use a clicker or will this work?
Nope.
Okay, that'll work. I thought I would try to clarify what Sean was just talking about. At the WWTP, it is has oversight from MDEQ, who issues an MPDES permit, and that permit requires us to submit a BOD this year for the CSO 18 closure. We applied for a grant, for an S2 grant, which we hired ACI to complete an SSES to look for all the I&I that's in the system, and then we're going to apply for an SRF grant, but we can't size the project until after we perform a PPC so that we can confirm the BOD for the construction of the EQ, and we want to try to avoid an NOV, which could result in an ACO, which then will trigger the EPA when they see the QNCRs, and then we're going to try to integrate the SAW into that. Any questions? That's the world of wastewater, as Mr. Cody knows. So explaining that a little bit more clearly, the treatment plant is regulated by the Department of Environmental Quality, and they issue a National Pollution Elimination Discharge permit to us. That permit has lots of different criteria, and Jody will talk about that a little bit. But one of the components that's in our current permit right now is that we submit a basis of design in June of 2015 to close off the combined sewer overflow that exists at 5th and Ramsdale Street. We still have excess flow that comes into the system beyond what we can treat and beyond what can go through that plant. And so we applied for a S2 grant, which stands for, it's a combination of money from the State Revolving Fund and the Strategic Water Quality Initiatives Fund. That grant was received about 3 years ago, and it has zero matching money from the city. So it's about a $224,000 grant. And Abbott Marsh Consultants has been working for the past 2 years to try to identify places where inflow and infiltration is coming into the system. So inflow are sources like a catch basin that is tied into the sanitary sewer. So stormwater, winter runoff goes directly into the sanitary sewer system, and it should not be. Infiltration are things like cracked pipes or manholes that are leaking, and so water from the ground is coming into the system through that direction. The study that is being completed with that S2 money is called the Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Study. So it has several components. The consultants have been looking for places where there are what we call illicit connections. So if somebody has a roof drain from their house that's tied directly to the sanitary sewer, that happens a lot on flat roofs. And when flat roofs were originally constructed, they piped them right into the sanitary sewer. It identified many, many manholes that were cross-connected. It's also looking for through what we call cross connections where pipes are crossed over, and we found quite a few of those. So at this point, the consultants are completing they're completing this study, and by next spring, we'll have, they believe they'll have enough data to be able to submit a project plan to the state revolving loan fund. So that does not require us to borrow money from the state. but it gives us the ability that whatever we build to solve this problem, we have the ability to access those low-interest loans. And today, what it looks like is that we will have to build an EQ, or an equalization basin. So today what happens when the flows to the plant get too high, we close a gate and we restrict how much is coming into the plant. That backs it up into the sewer line, the main sewer line. And when it backs up far enough to get to 5th and Ramstill, it goes over the top of a weir and it gets discharged through the storm sewer and back out to Manistee Lake. So what we've been doing is trying to eliminate as much water as we can from coming into the system. And we've got a number of those illicit connections, and we'll be sending out letters in the next month to the list locally. But we will still, in all intents and purposes, need to build an equalization basin. And what that does is it's essentially a tank or a basin that when we back up the flows to the plant, they get stored into this tank. And as the plant flows then reduce to where we can get back to normal treatment, we can empty that tank and then treat that water before it gets discharged. So the critical component is how much water is coming into the system that exceeds our capacity and how big that tank needs to be, because they cost between $2 to $5 per gallon to build those. Right now, we've already budgeted for, in our upcoming capital improvement budget, the construction of a 500,000 gallon tank, but we haven't confirmed that that's the proper size yet.
Where are you going to put it?
That's my question.
Can we discuss where we're looking at right now?
What we are currently having conversations with property owners adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant about trying to acquire some property adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant. We think that would be the most advantageous location. Those conversations haven't been firmed up yet, but those are where we currently are discussing.
Yeah, we're looking at expanding the footprint of the plant.
Question on that. I believe that's a 48-inch that runs into the plant? I can't remember. Is it 48 or 36? 36? Okay, with the flow, once you remove 18 and you got the flow debt, well, the big thing is, will that 36, I guess the question is going to be, will that 36 be sized adequately enough to handle the flow from the city once all the modifications been done? And if not, that means we're going to have to, then what are we going to do?
Well,
if that pipe is not significant in size to handle that.
What we have found, especially after all the separation projects that we've completed, is that we do not have an overflow at CSO 18 until after we restrict flows at the plant and back it up.
Okay.
So far, with the flows that are coming into the system currently, that 36-inch has capacity for that.
Okay. Yeah, fine.
So a couple other things that are pretty critical to this whole process, because we have not been able to size that basin. We have had several meetings with the DEQ and Cadillac this year and started the conversations late last year, and we let them know that we will not be able to submit a basis of design by 2015 as required in our permit. So that's going to create a violation of our permit. We have discussed different options of that, including an administrative consent order by which the state and the city agree that even though we can't comply with that certain aspect of the permit, we submit a schedule of when we can comply with it, and that's the agreement as it goes forward. We've discussed modifying our permit because the state is actually on our side and appreciates all the work and efforts, and the city has been proactive and been working on the sewer separation for decades. So they are trying to work with us, but Lansing is currently over a year behind in renewing all the NPDES permits that are scheduled to be renewed based on staffing conditions. They believe that it will take them a year in order to modify our permit to put in a new schedule, so they are not in favor of opening the permit up for modification. What we've arrived at on a verbal basis is that the violation would be handled administratively out of Cadillac, which would not then require an administrative consent order which then doesn't get the EPA involved and so forth, because we are progressing through this at the pace that the state is comfortable with.
Will they post that as a violation, no?
Yes.
They will?
Yes.
Well, it's gonna go out to EPA, everybody else won't
Well,
know that
it'll be
at that
posted
time.
as a violation, but it will not go to the enforcement division. It will be handled, and so what we're proposing is, we're proposing prior to the violation to submit the schedule by which we think we can bring the system into compliance, and providing them updates of every step of this as we go along. And so we've been meeting with them about every 3 months, and have gotten the permit division in Lansing also on board with this. So the letter understanding that we will have will then get incorporated into the new permit when the new permit gets written after 2015.
I go into that very carefully, because they will post they'll post violations up on the internet, and everybody
That's
will
the
know.
quarterly non-compliance report.
Yes. They'll be posted.
The other thing that's strongly in our favor is that where the city of Manistee, I don't want to say scored, but where we are listed as a priority for the storm asset management and wastewater grant, the SAW grant, is we should be able to get money either late this year or sometime next year. And what's that?
Most likely next year.
Right. So it just depends on who accepts the grant, the dollar values that are before them, but we got a small shot at this year, but most likely next year. The state is very aware of that. What's incorporated in our project plan for that SAW grant is completely televising, analyzing all the systems, which will identify more of the I&I that we can't see from the surface, that hasn't been able to be detected through smoke testing or dye testing. So we will be able to reduce the size of that basin once we go through the effort of the SAW grant. The state recognizes that, and they don't want us to oversize. I mean, if we had to build that, submit the basis of design for that basin right now, it would be much larger than it needs to be. And the state understands that that's not a good expenditure of public money. So we are treading through this as a group. We've had Spicer involved right through the entire process, and are staying in close communication with them.
When you design that equalization tank, what volume of incident are you going to be looking for as far as rainfall then?
It is the new standard.
Are you looking for a 1 inch or 2 inch rain?
It's a 25-year, 24-hour storm is what the state requires now.
That equates to how many inches, about?
How many gallons?
Huh?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
About 3 inch storm?
3 or 4 inches, I can look it up.
Okay. As long as you're up around 3 inches, you should be all right.
Right. And the storm is very calculable, but how it impacts our system is what we're
yes.
still trying to refine.
Yeah.
This year, the water and sewer departments worked together. In fact, it happened last fall, happened again this spring when we were flushing water mains. The plant kept an eye on the plant flows, and any little uptick, we noted where we were at, what time we were at. We went back, and I think we found 3 or 4 this year. One huge one last year, 3 or 4, where we had crossovers or we had leaking bulkheads that would not smoke. We had, well, I won't bore you with the details, but we were able to remove a lot of stormwater just from internal efforts this year as well.
Good.
So that's, I'm done with my part. So I think Bruce is going first. Bruce Banks is going to walk through the annual presentation for the water department all the way back. And then Jody Banks will do the wastewater treatment plant and the collection system.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. I'm Bruce Banks. I'm the lead operator for the water department. I think most of us, we all know each other. Here to give the annual report on our activities for the past year. I'm going to start out by introducing the staff. Since I've been here, the staff hasn't changed. Obviously, you can tell Kathy Boyle, she's our secretary, been here for 37 years. Michael Hiller has been here for 36 years, and he carries a certification of the S2 and D2. It's a water license. Tim Kolonuski's been here for 27 years, and myself, I've been here for over 12 now, and I carry the S1, D1 license. And obviously, at the bottom, we have 112 years of combined service. It's pretty good for 4 people. We're about to lose one of them here in a few months. Mike's going to retire and take a lot of knowledge with him, so hopefully replace him with a good person. Let's start with some of the things that we do. Last year we pumped 321 million gallons. Notice the downward trend. I think a lot of that has to do with water conservation. The Oaks Correction Facility is constantly trying to save water because they're under budget, just like we are. Probably see another year of small downward, then I think it's going to flatten out because you can only try to reduce so much water. You still have to do laundry, you still have to do clean your dishes and take showers and that. So we're about to level off here, I believe, in 2 years. We maintain over 53 miles of water main in the city and just outside the city also. And we read over 4,200 meters every month. Most of those are by radio control. We just drive around, and the device on the right is our handheld, and that grabs them. We still have a little over 100 meters or so we read by hand, where we have to go into the business or into a household and read it manually, write it down, and send it in. We flush, maintain, paint, fix, and replace over 350 hydrants in the system. Notice the hydrant on the right, as you're looking at it, is the hydrant on Maple Street at our south of 15th. It's at the northeast corner of the cemetery. That's the end of the 6-inch line that heads that way. And for years we went and get that in. We finally got that in last fall. It assures good quality water for those people down Maple Street that are on that line. We keep up on a valve exercising program. We have thousands of valves in the system. Hopefully by the next few years I have an exact count on how many we have. But it's tough to do in between everything we do. When we get a couple days break in between our jobs and seasons, we go out and we exercise as many valves as possible. At the same time, we crack a hydrant, try to get the velocity of the water going through the seat of the valve to break up that the crust that sits in there. There's 3 of us that run the department, and we take a turn. One guy does it a week, and that's our service calls. And the service calls involve the turn on and turn off of a house or business. We do mist digs on a daily basis. We investigate high bills, and we locate leaks in the house when possible. Most of the time we can find them, and 90% of the time it is a toilet that's leaking out through the back tank, and you don't notice it. We repair the meters and the remotes so we can read them. We investigate water quality issues. We investigate low pressure issues, which most of the time is plumbing. Odor complaints, sulfur, your hot water tanks. You're supposed to drain them every 6 months and refill them. We follow compliance sampling. We do chemical addition every day, and we do the record keeping of the pumpage and the chemical addition every day. We do our equipment maintenance, and we do after-hours alarms and service calls when needed. The fun part is the water main service and repair. The left side of the screen is on Washington. That was directly caused by a frozen water main, 4-inch main that finally cracked and popped up, and we were there, I think, 3 times in a week after the other side of it blew up too. The picture on the right was myself in the hole. That's on Taylor Street, and that's another broken water main directly caused by a frozen main from this past winter, which I'm sure we have not forgotten yet. The bottom picture is what happens when a water main freezes. That's a 4-inch water main, and notice the lateral crack. That's, if I remember right, that was a 42-inch crack along that, and, you're talking about 80 pounds of pressure spraying out of it. It's pretty nasty stuff. This top slide is a video. Short, so this is on Arthur Street, right by the boat launch, actually.
He's right on it. It's gotta be right there. That's where it is.
If I remember right, that night got down to like 10 degrees, and that water is about 50 degrees coming out. You're not bad when you're in the hole working on it, but as soon as you come out, it's pretty nasty. They're fun to watch. They're not fun to work in, that's for sure. We follow quality assurance from the DEQ, directly from the EPA. We routine laboratory analysis on a daily basis to ensure our water quality. We do the water quality annual report, which is available at the city's website and various locations around the city, including the library, Manistee News Advocate. Heather has them downstairs. We have them at the garage, a nice pamphlet that's got a lot of fun water facts and facts about our system. Some of our completed projects from the last year was the variable frequency drive in well 6. The old drive is on the left-hand side. You can notice the size. It's 8 feet tall, probably about 400 or 500 pounds. The new VFD is the picture on the right, the center square, which is probably a 1.5 by 2.5 35-pound box. Yeah, real nice. The main reason, the old Allen Bradley's, the one on the left, the components went obsolete. So well 6 is our workhorse well that provides most of the water for the city of Manistee, especially in any fire occurrence. We turn that on, and that's pumping 2,000 gallons a minute right now. And once those parts went obsolete, we immediately put in the money. We had to get this. The new VFD is energy efficient. It's been in for a year now and had no problems with it. Very happy with it. We did fencing around the North Industrial Water Tower. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's really nice. Straight fence from Manistee here did it. They did a really nice job. They came in at low bid. We did this for security reasons. Obviously, there's been a lot of spray painting going on around the tank. Of course, there's always the terrorist issue. We're not that far from that. So we did put a fence up. We have access to it anytime. We have a lot of phone equipment outside it that the phone companies lease from us for the cellular towers and that. So this year we purchased a new service truck, and that thing is nice. Remember the old water van? It was 2-wheel drive, and anybody who's ever driven in a van in the winter, Manistee knows it's not very fun. This truck has 4-wheel drive, has ample storage. It's very nice. Good purchase. We assisted Elmer's in the tie-ins for the Meyer store going out at 31 and 55. They've done a 12-inch and a 10-inch tap to service the store and their fire suppression needs. And the little one on the left is an 1.5-inch tap that's going to service their gas station. That picture on the right is directly across from the River Haven driveway. It's a 90-degree bend. As it heads out, it's going out to the prison. They did a real nice job there. We're actively replacing the high-volume meters. As the meters get old, they catch less water. They're mechanically made. So as we're catching less water, there's less income for the water department. It still costs the same or more money to pump that water. So we're actively replacing these meters with new meters and trying to catch 99% of the water that goes through them. And the bottom 5 businesses were or schools were the 5 that we've done this year. I'm going to talk about the winter of this 13 and 14 just real briefly. We had 140 frozen water lines, which I'm sure council you guys are very aware of. We spent most of the winter, the water department, some of the wastewater department, many of the other DPW staff, all of us had to come together and thawing these lines and working on the broken pipes and the broken meters because it was out of control. 3 of us couldn't keep up. Worst winter in recent history for freeze-ups, and it had a very large impact on our budget, which hurt. This was our board. Councilman Cody might recognize this board. It's right in front of Kathy's desk, and this is how we took a daily roll of houses that were coming in that were frozen up. We had occupied homes, we had vacant homes, and semi-vacant homes that people were just staying in like on weekends for a summer, a winter home they call it. And obviously we moved the occupied homes up first to try to get them water, and it was a constant evolving machine and hard to keep up with. The RWIS, the Road Weather Information System, this was February 4th, I believe this was taken. Yep, 2/4/14. This gives us ground temperature. Notice towards the bottom it said subsurface temp, 66.8 degrees, 66.8 inches below the surface. This is in Manistee County. Was 31.3 degrees. So that's 5 feet, 8 inches down was below freezing. On that day is when you guys voted to go into the run water notice, and it's a good thing we did. Normally you don't ever see frost go below 5 feet, hardly ever. But it went well below that. It went up to the 70 to 80 inch mark before the winter ended up giving up. But this was how we followed how far the frost was down. That's when, like I said, it's when we went to the run water advisory, the pencil stream. And to combat that, hopefully we don't have that winter again, but we purchased the Magic Kists in February, early March. I think me and Mr. McCula found this from Canada. What I did is I contacted the DEQ. They said, call up our engineer in Escanaba. So I called him up. He's like, you know, what we do up here is we have a Magic Kist. I'm like, really? So we researched it, called the company that made it, and they said, yeah, and come up with some money to buy this. It's the Pult Jet De-icer water service pipe thawing machine. Of course, they were out of stock and on back order until June from February. So I don't want to use it, but like I said, I probably will be, and hopefully it works. Help the people out. Some of our upcoming projects, you can say goodbye to the sunset behind the lighthouse. It's going either this fall or next spring. The painting of the Maywood Tower, the paint has outlasted its life, and before it gets any worse, we have to paint this tower. So depending on when bids come back and how they come back and the prices, it will be this fall or early spring sometime. Following this winter and the many emergencies we had, we're going to put together an emergency response trailer. It's going to include all of our cold weather gear, all of our safety equipment, including our safety goggles, our gloves, hat, hard hats, boots, all the equipment we would need for a main break or a service line break, or just a service line replacement when we just go to the house and we're updating the service line. All the parts and everything, so instead of loading the truck and unloading it and loading it again for the next day, we're going to load everything into a trailer. Everything's going to be there, pull out the trailer, and bam, we're there. We're going to have a generator in there. We're going to have valve turning equipment. That will be purchased this fiscal year. We are updating our cross-connection program. We've hired a private firm to help us update this and implement it. We're going to be trained properly and with some software so we can get into every business and properly inspect for cross-connections and get up to speed on that program. We are also updating our wellhead protection program. We're working with the Michigan Rural Water Association, and Councilman Cody has joined our team. He's one of, I believe, 8 or 10 of us who we're going to meet quarterly for a year and discuss how to educate the public on keeping groundwater safe, basically. A lot of it's going to involve schoolwork and getting kids involved and try to teach them the right way of treating groundwater. You know, it's there and it's very finite. The water general plan is at the final stage, and I believe it's finished. This will be discussed 2 weeks from last night at the next council meeting. I believe Avamarsh Group will be discussing this and giving you an update on this plan. It is required by our Safe Drinking Water Act. Is there any questions?
1.
Yes, sir.
2. First of all, how's the chlorides coming out of the well field?
Fantastic.
Good.
I did a partial chemistry on the 4 active wells, and I think the high was 60, 65.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very low.
You guys looking at well 7 to doing anything with that thing?
As soon as we can come up with some money, I would like to.
It's always money.
Yeah, we need a couple, about $250,000.
What about well 10?
Well 10 is fabulous. Runs every day. That's the well at the airport is well 10, just if you don't know. That runs every day. It supplies most of the north side. Some of that water might come to the south side once in a while, but that is pure water there.
The last question, evidently, the lightning protection that we had put in down at the well field down there is protecting the new variable speed drives and that?
Once again, since we put it in, we haven't had a glitch.
Let's keep it that way.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. Good report.
Thank
nice
you.
job.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Hello,
Hi, Jody.
I'm Jody, and I'm going to talk about the collection system and the wastewater treatment plant. Okay. Okay, we'll start with the collection system. Again, we'll start out with the staff there. Currently, there is one person that's dedicated to the collection system. That's Jeff Krolchak. He's been with the city for 27 years. He's a Vector truck operator, sewer mason, plow truck driver, DPW laborer. In the past, there were 2 operators for the collection system. About a year ago, Brandon Prince became the lead man of the DPW, and since then, instead of filling that position, they're kind of backfilling that with some of the other departments and doing some cross-training efforts. Some of what they do in the collection system, they inspect sewer backups, they do catch basin repair and maintenance, sewer line repair and maintenance, manhole inspections and repair and cleaning. They assist the wastewater plant with lift station maintenance. They also assist the water department with water main repairs. They do hydro excavation. They contract their services of the Vector truck to MDOT. They do some intergovernmental projects with other communities. And they also assist the DPW with maintenance as well. This is a sewer backup inspection. They would receive a complaint, send out a crew, make an assessment, and then respond accordingly to that situation. Same thing with the catch basin repair and cleaning. This is just last week, was at Chapman and Cherry Street, I believe. The catch basin caved in. They came, cut it out, dug it out, repaired it, and put it back together. They do sewer cleaning. On the front of the Vector truck, there's what they call a rodder. It sends a hydraulic jet down the sewer to clean that out. This is a little video also. Not sure how to play that. Is there a pointer on this thing?
Just a mouse.
Oh, okay. There we go. And this shows how a sewer cleaning head works from a demonstration that they had down at the garage when they bought their Vector truck. That head goes down the pipe and it shoots out high pressured water in a circumference around the pipe and pushes that back, and then the debris is sucked out from the Vector truck. That's got a lot of pressure behind it. I don't know the statistics. It's extremely powerful. Okay. So, talk about some of their projects. The big purchase this year was the new Vector truck. That is a critical piece of equipment. It's used in all the departments, as you know, with the water department, the wastewater, the collection system. A very expensive truck, but it definitely serves its purpose. Also, the SSES, which Jeff and Sean talked about earlier, is part of the collection system. So once that moves forward, we'll be able to size that equalization basin. Some of the projects that are coming up this year would be that CSO closure that they discussed earlier in front of Century Terrace, which is designed, I believe, and ready to go. They will also continue the effort for I&I removal. Like Jeff was saying, when the water department flushes into the storm sewer, we watch the trends coming into the plant. When we see a spike, then we go back and investigate that area and then make the necessary repairs. We found a really big one on the highway this year at the corner of 5th and Cypress, and we're able to fix that. We still have quite a bit of work to do, though. The Riverbank sewer line is another one. This has been on the upcoming projects for a while. Obviously, it's pending funding. From here, we'll move on to the wastewater treatment plant. The staff there's 4 operators at the plant. Jerry Brzeski, who's been there for 19 years. Randy Hunt, 21 years, Jeff split 11 years, and then myself, and I've been there for 8 years. We have 59 years of experience combined. We have a fairly small crew for the amount of area that we cover. What we do, well, we treat wastewater. So this year we treated 345 million gallons. The number has remained fairly steady. 2009 was our highest year in the last 5 years, but I believe that was a really wet year, so that would attribute to most of the excess flow. We applied 1.2 million gallons of anaerobically digested biosolids this year. We're responsible for a variety of things. We're staffed 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have 14 lift stations that we maintain. We operate all the processes at the wastewater treatment plant. We do the maintenance on the grounds and the facilities. We have about 50 pumps in service that we operate and maintain. We revise, update, and implement our own safety policies. We maintain those state certifications. All of the operators are certified through the state of Michigan MDEQ, and we maintain those certifications as required by the DEQ through continuing education. We create and implement our own preventive maintenance programs for the plant equipment. We do our own laboratory analysis, and we also maintain our own laboratory equipment. Administratively, we're responsible for these programs and reporting those to the DEQ as well. On a monthly basis, we do a discharge monitoring report, a monthly operating report. We administer an industrial waste control program. We have a PMP for total mercury that is reported to the DEQ on an annual basis, as well as a residuals management program, which goes back to the land application program for our biosolids, and that is an annual report as well. We also have an EPA laboratory evaluation study, which is required, that certifies that our laboratory is producing quality results. These are some of the tests that are required in our NPDES that we test in-house, which would be BOD, total and volatile suspended solids, ammonia, phosphorus, fecal coliform, pH, dissolved oxygen, and then mercury is a monthly test that we outsource that because it's at an ultra-low trace level. We also have several other tests that we do for plant process efficiency. Those are all done in-house on a daily basis as well. We maintain a quality assurance program with control charting to also certify that our results are accurate. We do the beach monitoring. This was formerly done by the health department. The funding for that was cut by the state of Michigan. The city administration chose to continue to test our beaches to make sure they're safe. So the wastewater treatment plant now tests First Street Beach, Fifth Avenue Beach, and Man-Made Lake. We do that on a weekly basis for E. coli. Those are sampled and tested in-house. We then submit those results to the health department, who in turn gets them to the DEQ, and they're put on the Beach Guard website. By doing it in-house, we've realized significant cost savings for the city rather than having to have those outsourced. Some of the projects that we completed this year was at the 6th Avenue pump station. We historically had some really significant plugging issues there. We were up to 3 or 4 times a week at least. If it was rainy, it was every day, at least once. The inlet into that pump station comes right at the suction of the pump, so and the lines that feed it are very flat, so there's a lot of buildup. We did a lot of research. We replaced one pump there and called it our lead pump. So this is the pump that runs all the time. We chose a flight pump that was equipped with an N-series impeller after doing some research on different options for plugging in issues. We installed that pump last year, May 28th, and it has not plugged one time since. When the pump would plug before, you'd have to send 2 operators there, take it out, take it apart, remove the blockage, put it back together, put it back in. Most of the time that doesn't happen during working hours. It's not that convenient. So it's freed up staff to do a lot of other things, and it's also taken the burden off the city for the risk of an overflow there. We also rehabilitated the 8th and Vine lift station. The controls there were significantly outdated. We added variable frequency drives there because the wet well is low capacity and high volume, and that has been a significant change for us, and it's worked out really good. We installed a new flow meter at the Oaks that was not working before. We really didn't have a good quality number of what was coming out of there. We installed a new Endress Hauser flow meter and integrated that into our SCADA system. We can now just go to our SCADA computer in the plant and bring up those numbers as on the left there. It shows the days total, the current total, and the last 24 hours. We just about a month and a half ago, we ended up rebuilding both of our blowers. Those blowers provide the oxygen to the activated sludge system, which is the key part of our plant and the treatment process. They were both in dire straits. We came in for a service, and both of them, one needed a complete rebuild and the other one needed bearings. And so those are both in really good shape right now. We look forward to having a lot longer life out of those. They're, I believe, 25 plus years old, but they're working really well. We were required by our NPDES permit to have our operation and maintenance manual updated. That's a very extensive document. There's a lot of requirements for that. Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber were contracted to do that since they built the last phase of our plant, and that has been approved. We also updated and revised our PMP for total mercury. These are also required by our NPDES permit. We did this mostly in-house. We were able to get reduced monitoring. We have been at the program has a goal of 1.3 nanograms per liter of a concentration in your effluent, and we've been at that or below. Or actually, we've been significantly below it for the last couple of years. So we have a little less mercury testing that we need to do now. Some of the projects that we have coming up this year, we're going to be putting an on-site generator at the Renaissance Park pump station for emergency power outages. We're going to rehab the industrial park pump station. We're going to add new pumps and controls there. We will also be upgrading the electrical service from single phase to 3-phase. We're going to upgrade the Sweetenham pump station. We're going to add new pumps and a valve vault there. Hopefully at a later date we'll be able to add some new controls there as well. We're going to update our return activated sludge pumps. These are another very critical piece of the process. You really can't go without them. These are very old too. They came in one of the original phases back in the late 80s or early 90s. And then we will be adding variable frequency drives to those as well. That'll give us some more energy efficiency. Right now they run against a pinch valve, which is not energy efficient. We're going to purchase a portable pump. This is going to be able to enable us to operate as a portable pump station. If any of the pump stations in the system were to ever fail or you were to lose your controls, you can pull this up there, drop in some floats, program it, and it'll run. It has the ability to run. It will have the ability to run dry and has a very wide duty point. The proposals for this pump are due this week, so we're hoping to get that purchased in the near future. They also use it at high volume main breaks where they can't do the dewatering with the Vector truck and bypass pumping. The 6th Avenue pump station is the replacement project that has not yet been completed. Is still on the list. It's been on there for quite a while. It's just a funding issue. The equalization basin was discussed earlier, and that would be sized with the SSES. That is because of the CSOs. As you know, we need to close CSO 18. It's our last active outfall. We've had 6 overflows so far this year. So far since January, we've discharged at the CSO 18 almost 25 million gallons. And I can tell you 99.9% of that was in a 3-week period where we were not able to stop restricting flow to the plant. So at that time, there was 25 million gallons that we couldn't treat. So that gives you kind of a picture of that I&I issue that we're looking at. It's still very significant. We have spent millions and millions of dollars on those sewer separations, and we still have a lot more work to do, and that's where that EQ basin comes into play. Lastly, the asset management, which Sean and Jeff talked about earlier, that's going to be most likely a requirement in our renewed NPDES permit, and that is part of the SAW grant. Well, hopefully we'll get the funding, or that will provide funding to develop that management plan, which will be required from the NPDES. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
I have one. One of the earlier slides, you showed that the treatment went up in 2013. The amount of gallons you were treating at the plant had gone up.
I don't believe so. I think we're real close. We're pretty steady. Oh, we did go up over last year. Yes, I think that was mostly. It's hard to tell if it's from a water usage standpoint because a lot of that depends on precipitation and the amount of INI, and that's really hard to meter. But I believe part of that is due in part that the Oaks did increase their consumption substantially over last year, although it's nowhere near what it was in years previous.
Because in the water usage, that had shown continuous decreases, and yet,
That's correct.
in the one slide you showed in 2013, it
Right,
showed
we
an
are
increase.
treating more than the water department is pumping, which is obviously not a good thing. That is, the main key factor is the INI issue. It's the water that's coming
I would have
in.
thought the two graphs would have gone
Right.
similar.
And because of precipitation, which causes the inflow and infiltration, that's what accounts for the differences there. And so the main factor for us really is precipitation. It doesn't really correlate with the water pumping, which you would think, and it actually should.
Okay, thank you.
This winter, when we had to run the water notice, for the freeze-ups and all that, what kind of burden did that put on the plant?
We did notice an increase, but because in the winter we don't have a lot of INI, it didn't give us any issues. It put us up slightly higher than you would see in a normal winter, but it was definitely nothing we couldn't handle. We were getting up there near our capacity or our rated capacity, but it wasn't a burden on the plant.
Any non-compliance issues with that?
No.
No? Okay. All right.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
Next, we'll have a presentation of the fourth quarter investment report by Finance Director Ed Bradford.
No report tonight?
In your packet was an investment report. It's the same format as we've done in the past, although I did add, and will continue to have in future quarterly reports, kind of a comment section. So I just kind of want to go through that. This is as of the tentative end of our fiscal year. And overall, the investment performance was very favorable for the year. Again, the bulk of our investments are contained in the oil and gas fund. The Federal Reserve has kept interest rates at historically low levels for several years now. CD rates for any normal CD that the city would purchase are 5/100ths of 1%. I mean, they're just ridiculous low, so we don't invest in those. And what we've been doing is we've been using our demand deposits, our checking account and things like that to earn earnings credits, which is used to offset bank fees. So our bank fees are being offset because that's paying at a higher rate than what the interest rates are on CD investments. It looks like the Federal Reserve is starting to ease off their low interest rate environment a little bit. They're winding down some of their bond buying, and there's been some signs of economic activity, but I still expect, at least for another year, that those Fed fund rates are going to be rather low. And we're not going to see the return of the 3-4% CDs that we could get, or 5% CDs, for quite some time. So it's going to continue to be a challenging investment environment for our day-to-day funds. The oil and gas fund had another very good year. We had interest, dividends, and unrealized gains for the fiscal year in excess of $1 million. So again, that strategy of widening the types of investments we could invest in has paid off very well. In terms of how our assets, our investments are divided up, the vast majority of those are in equities and in bonds. And again, those are primarily due to the oil and gas fund, which is over 80% of what monies we have invested. The most of the rest of the funds are in demand deposits because they're operating funds, and those are the ones that are earning earnings credit. Does anybody have any questions on the investment report? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Next, we'll move on to concerns and comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance shall be recognized by the mayor for comments, which are limited to 5 minutes, and letters will not be publicly read. Is there anybody who'd like to comment? Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name, address.
My name is Wally Eaton, and I live in Austin, Texas, but I live 6 months in Manistee. My issues ain't quite what was just mentioned, but they're important issues to us. I represent the Eagles. I have the president here, and I have Moose Club here, Civic Club. All the other clubs around town, we're barely, as you know, give you an update, are just barely surviving. We're just trying to keep the wolves away from the door, but we're coming up with different ideas. My thing here today is if you have something on front of you, I've been talking with Mitch. Last year I came into town, I ran a motorcycle group, different functions that we're having to keep the clubs alive because we're not making it in the alcohol sales. And one of the important issues to me, or to us, our club, was these signs. I put on 3 signs. I put one on Division, I put one on 31, and one coming up 31 by the post office. They were very effective. To give you an idea, we do our Taco Tuesday, we did $300 a night. I put the signs up. The following week we did $1,000. Well, I get a letter from the city to remove them. And I didn't understand the laws because I'm not familiar with the laws. None of us are, okay? When we looked at the other signs out in the street, Mitch confronted or told me what they have special exemptions or whatever they have. I don't know. But my question, or the reason I'm here is to ask if there's anything, and I asked Mitch the same question, that you can do to help us in regards to these signs. Now, what we do, we put them up on a Tuesday, or our Taco Tuesday's Tuesday, we put them up on Saturday, we take them down on Tuesday, okay? So, and we do the Taco Tuesday every other week. And whether or not we're going to continue it, now Ron does the breakfast, you know, it's all based on, we get a lot of business from the signs. And what I'm asking is if there's anything that the council can do to help us to put out the signs. Not that we want to plaster the cities up with them, because we don't. Now, in Mitch's case, he doesn't feel that the Taco Tuesdays and the steak dinners are special events. Well, they're special events to us because they're fundraisers, okay? And that's basically what we got to do. The casinos are literally killing us because everybody can go out there and do whatever they want, and we can't abide by those rules. So what I'm asking the council to do for the clubs, not just me, but for all the clubs, is some kind of leniency that we could put these signs up and take them down. And that's basically what I'm here to talk about.
I believe last Friday you got part of your packet was the off-premise sign package that you received. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read that. Yep. The off-premises signs, and Denise put together really a excellent packet of information for you to read to understand the issue. To put it quickly, off-premises signs are not permitted by the City of Manistee zoning ordinance. When you read it, there's a whole bunch of different off-premise signs. You have the civic clubs putting stuff up. This last year you saw Relay for Life signs on the US 31. You occasionally will have Renaissance painting signs or Action Termite Pest Control or various other signs throughout the city. The ordinance is pretty clear that those signs, whether they're in the right-of-way or outside of the right-of-way, are not permitted. We do allow some leniency for non-advertisement signs, such as MCC Sabre support or Manistee High School Public Schools support those type of different venues. We haven't really addressed those. We also allow some leniency for if a company is painting your home. So while they're out painting your home, they can have that sign in the front yard while they're painting their home, but once that's done, then the sign needs to be removed. My conversations with Wally and the other individuals are simple, that the request has been that council treat these as a special event. I see special events such as Hops and Props, as Old Christmas Weekend, various things like that. These I see as ongoing events, not special events. It's just a personal opinion.
By that reasoning, then any of the signs that are up for the farmers market cannot be put up any longer.
I agree completely.
And I don't think that is right. I think it should be service organizations are exempt and not-for-profits are exempt.
Well, and you can go down to Shoreline Showcase Academy. You can go as far as you want with this particular thing. I think some of those events, such as farmers markets, or possibly the entire Shoreline Showcase concert series, potentially could come to council and request a special event for the 2015 summer concert series.
So could he then?
Potentially.
What about yard sale signs? You know, those things are plastered all over on telephone
and
poles, on trees, and you know they never take them down.
Those aren't really. I'm not sure those are addressed, and Denise may be able to answer that. I don't believe those are addressed on the off-premise side. Yeah. But our point is simple: staff does not have the ability to give an exemption to the zoning ordinance. We don't have that ability, and those off-premise signs are, and we pick up a ton of them. We pick up a ton of them. So the Eagles and the various other clubs would like to ask council to see if there's some direction that can be granted. From a staff's position, the signs aren't permitted. If council wants to permit those signs and believes that that's the right direction, then I think the course of action is to have the planning commission look at that particular section of the sign ordinance, make some recommendations, and if we believe that those are the right venue to have those signs up, then change the ordinance.
Like I
now, mind
said,
you will have signs everywhere.
as long as it's not for profit, a fraternal organization, I have no problem with it. If it's a business, no.
Well, then
I concur with you on that.
Yeah, see, we're nonprofit, the Eagles and Elks is nonprofit, and we're only talking 3 months because in the winter we don't put them up.
Right.
If we don't make it in this winter, and I'll tell you, we just did an event, real quick, and I'll make this short, just to give you an update. We did this 4th of July thing that we just did. Well, we made $17,000, okay? By the time we got done, we made $10,002, and we sold tickets, which we did. Everybody's donating their time and whatever. That's what's making it go. We sold tickets. We total out of the $17,000, we made $10,300. Well, we paid 2012 back tax, which was $10,200. We paid a $2,500 penalty, so we ain't even paid $13 yet. And the other clubs are in the same boat. I'm not begging or asking for anything. I'm saying if we can turn it around, if we stand together, but we need help from everybody. Okay? And these signs work, and I'm not talking 50 signs. We're only talking division going up, going down, and then the American Legion puts that sign out for their fish fry on wheels, and that's what I'm talking about.
Wally, what are you just referring to your one sign at right by the Eagles parking lot right there?
No, that's the on-premise sign.
Okay.
I'm talking, the sign I'm talking about,
Like the political signs.
Oh.
Yeah, I put one on 31 in Division, and I put one at the post office, and or not Division, I put 31 going up by the post office, 31 coming down by the parts place, and one on the corner of Division and River Street. Okay, so we're 3 signs is what I'm talking about.
And my only comment to council is, I don't think you should look at it as to 3 signs for the Eagles. I think you have to look holistically as to how many signs would be permitted entirely throughout the community, and make your decision based upon that holistic information.
I don't think it'll be any more than it currently is.
Well, the Service Club's off to a lot of organizations and to benefits and stuff like that. If it's kept to a minimum, I got no problem, because they are working. But at the same time, I don't want them plastered all over. I hear you on that one. But at the same time, if there are several, maybe 3, 4, and as long as they got permission to sit there, so there should be some kind of permission from the business.
Then we limit the
signage,
limit the quantity.
Are yard sale signs permitted?
Yes.
Denise, I'm not sure if they are or not. I don't know.
And guess what? The commissioner signs and the sailor signs, and they're, guess what? Exempt. Imagine that, okay? But
I don't disagree with you, Wally.
All we're trying to do, like I said, is, and I really appreciate the time you guys took. We went to the planning board meeting, which Mitch had told us to do, and then we submitted a letter, which you have on your desk, of asking what we want, and that's basically what we want. Okay, we're not talking about 100 signs, and I know if the Civic does it, and Moose does it, and the Elks does it. My gosh, what we're going to do is we're going to work together. I'll tell you this right now, as an organization, where we're not going to have 2 breakfasts on the same Sunday. Okay, we're not going to have 2 Taco Tuesdays on the same Tuesday. All the clubs are going to work together to make sure we don't.
Well, even the church puts a sign out for their breakfast once a month.
Exactly. That's St. Joseph.
Are we going to exempt? Are we going to penalize them? I think we got to take a bigger view on this.
Well, I think if we'd like a work session, it sounds like councils, like for nonprofits and things of that nature, looking at limits, allowing.
Yeah, I definitely think we could develop some parameters that work
for our nonprofits and our service clubs
group
to help
and
them.
The duration they can stay out, the volume they can stay. I think it's a doable thing, and then there's compliance that is required based on those parameters.
Would you like that to go back to the planning commission, or do you want to send that straight to a work session?
I would like to see it at a work session.
I think we can do it at a work session.
Would you like to grant some leniency because you have 5 different items and next week you have 5 very long items on your work session, then you're in September, and you're really getting past the 3 months of viability for the various surveys.
I would say until we can do a work session, I would be okay with our nonprofits and service clubs within
Correct.
a very, when you do your Taco Tuesdays, how long are you putting them out on?
Okay,
Facebook?
right now, we're working on a motorcycle rally I'm working on right now, okay, which is September 16th. And then, Taco Tuesday, just like the breakfast is, if we make money, we're going to stay there. It's all volunteer work, okay? I know the signs hurt us because I put them up and I had to take them down. We started out at 30. We're not talking big tickets here, but we did 90. And then when the signs went down, we went back to about 45, okay? So, we got Taco Tuesday. We got a bike rally coming up. I got an auction coming up. Hopefully, if we can get people to volunteer, and that's 3 big issues that's going to be up in August 16th is our bike rally. September 16th is the auction that we're going to have, okay? And,
so we will be flexible on the nonprofits. We will not be flexible on the for-profit businesses advertisement signs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we will hopefully September-ish, October-ish, get this on in front of council to work session. I don't have the upcoming agenda directly in front of me.
I wasn't given an answer on the yard sales.
Yeah, they're exempt.
Yeah.
They're exempt.
Okay.
They're exempt.
Okay.
As are.
That's something that needs to be
yard
included
sale
in this.
for profit.
You can draft it with any parameters you choose.
Is there any way I could get leniency for the September, or my August 16th? Okay.
I have no problem with
You've
that.
already got it.
Okay.
For it.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you do that pretty good. You hear that? You can have
For our meeting.
There we go.
Ray Fortier, 367 11th Street. I'm a use of word tonight I haven't used in 81 years of my life. Hate. I hate what some of you people did on this council when you voted for the water and sewer rates. What you did to me, other senior citizens, and so low poor people in this community, and the administration also. Now, every time the water and sewer rates went up in this community, they went up across the board. Every time. Not this time. This time, us people that use lower rates of water are going to pay more than the people on top that use a lot of water. And they probably use a lot of water because they can afford it, but we don't because we can't. Now, I normally get up here and talk in a normal tone of voice to you folks, but I'm very upset. And now, I got my first water bill. I'm not very happy. And so, I'm going to go back a few years to when the city council went along with the administration and took the bond debt and put it in capital improvement fund. Had they left that bond debt where it was, with the interest you have coming in today, you wouldn't have to be doing to our water and sewer rates what you are doing today. But that money went into capital improvements, and then did we have fun spending money? My favorite subject, the Taj Mahal, the marina down there. How much money got put into that place? A heck of a lot. And now we're still subsidizing it with $40,000 a year by budget. Also, I asked a simple question up here one time. Somebody turned the heat off, nobody drained the water out, and when they turned it up, they had frozen water pipes. And I asked a simple question. How much did that cost to fix that? And I never got an answer from anybody. Now, I don't ask too many questions when I come up here. I normally come up, speak my piece, and leave. Now, you people up there draw more sitting there than I get for Social Security. Most of you have good paying jobs with benefits. A couple of you have good pensions with benefits. And you not only spent my little bit of raise on my Social Security, you spent part of my Social Security. And now the water and sewer rates are going to go up every year. So that means some more is going to be coming out of my Social Security. Now, I don't eat very much at a meal. My noon meal costs me $2.30. My evening meal costs me $2.30. You people have 3 square meals a day because you can afford it. I can't. But still, you're spending part of my Social Security. And I don't think that's fair, but that's the way it goes. Now, the Ramsdale Theater. They had a little group over there, and they get little grants, and they would do some work there, a little work there, and they tried their best. The city took over. Now, we had to have a new roof. The new roof got put on. Had to have a new heating and cooling system. They got a new heating and cooling system. And we're still subsidizing it $40,000 a year. Now, the man that was in charge over there, I don't know how it came about, but somehow or another, you good people got talked into hiring a manager over there for $60,000 a year. You don't even know the man. You don't know what he can do. How can he be worth $60,000 a year? So now I'm going to tell you. Put the gentleman back in charge that was over there. Take that $140,000 you got budgeted for the Ramsdale Theater and put it in an account. Take that 40 grand a year you got down there on the marina, because that never is going to pay for itself, no way, in any amount of years. Put that 40 grand in an account. Then you got a bond coming due, being paid up, and you're going to have another $150,000. Now, start thinking about fixing your roads. It was thought at one time to put up there on the ballot to repeal the Henley Amendment. Oh, you lucky you didn't do it, or you didn't decide to do it, because I can tell you what would have happened to it. It would have never flew. And then it was mentioned, maybe, and I don't think you can do it, because I think pretty much all of the oil and gas fund is invested. So I don't think you can get any money out of there. But if you could get 2 or 3 million, could you have a spending good time? You have a spending good time, all of you. Now, the worst street in this community, Quincy Street. And then people have been paying taxes over there for years. But nothing's getting done with their road. You haven't got any money budgeted for roads. And if you did get money for roads, the road wouldn't get fixed because it costs too much money. What do you mean it costs too much money? They've been paying taxes all this year. They should have that service. Now, like I say, I normally get up here and talk in a normal tone of voice, but I am thoroughly disgusted with what's going on, because I always loved my little community. I wore a city cap wherever I went, the city of Manistee. And today, you couldn't get me to put one on, because I'm not proud of this community at all. What's happened to it is terrible. Now, I'm going to tell you. When a lot of us people, when we were young, we had to go to work at an early age. I went to work at the age of 14. I worked 7 days a week till 21 when I went in the Army. Because before I went to work, I didn't sometimes have a slice of dry bread on the table. My dad drank up everything he made. Then I went on a vacation. Now, this is a good one. I went on vacation. I went in the Army for 5 years, and I call that a vacation. And I come back. Lucky I saved some money, because our house was due up for taxes. 3 years. I paid him. And now since that time, over 50 years, I've been paying water and sewer and taxes in this community. And then you people got 4 people from the community to come on a committee. Now that's what we pay you for. That's what we pay the administration for, to do for this community. And the council is elected to do for the community, and they do nothing for the community.
Mr. Fortier, can you please wrap up your comments?
My 5 minutes is up?
Yes, sir.
Can I make a comment?
Hold
Ray-
off for a few minutes.
Ray, with all due respect, I don't get 1 dime of benefits from the city. I pay my own benefits. So don't, so don't tell anybody that I get benefits from the city.
You don't get any benefits at all.
The only thing I get from the city is my pension, and I work 34 years for it.
Okay. Okay, now if you give me a few minutes, I'm going to be going out the door, and then you can go about your business.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Manistee. I'm in the same predicament as Ray, and I'd say the same thing, but I'll make it short and sweet. Has the city ever took about 8-10 years ago, I asked them to take a survey of the people living in poverty, the unemployed and the underemployed, and the retirees and the elder people moving into this town to get out of the high cost there. Now the city slammed the door on these people here. I invested thousands of dollars into my sewer system, my water system, right from the road all the way through the house. Water saver, everything. Cut the showers and washing and everything. And now you come with a ready to serve. What's the definition of ready to serve in the city? I can call and you'd send a guy to my house within 20 minutes? No. I did that years ago and it was ready to serve. And it took that guy 2.5 days to come to my house because I had a leak in the line. 2.5 days, and that's ready to serve. And now you're hitting me with ready to serve on my sprinkler system after I changed everything over, got a separate meter, paid the city for the meter, and plumbers to put in new lines for me for the outside sprinkler, and I'm going to be paying all the way through the winter for a sprinkler line ready to serve? I'll tell you, if I was 10 or 15 years younger and was just retiring, you'd see the exhaust of my car and the taillights heading south. I wouldn't stay here. I used to tell the people this is a great town to live in, but not now. I take one look at what it costs me. That's the first thing I look if I ever move to a new town, what the cost would be on taxes, besides paying for your house payments, what all the utilities for that property. And I sure as heck wouldn't move here with the way yous are going. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Ross Spencer, I live on 8th Street, and I have to agree with these two gentlemen. You've got a system with your water rates now and sewer rates where you're just flat out discriminating against people who are retired. That's the only way you can figure it out, because the less water you use, the more it costs you, and that makes no sense to me. And I agree that having to pay a separate ready-to-serve fee for a lawn sprinkler, if you had 2 water pipes coming in your house, I could understand that, but not when it's 1 water pipe and 2 meters. So I think you've got a system there where people have tried to work within the system, and now you've turned it around, so now they're losing again. And that's just wrong. I think you need to just go back and take a second look at it and say, you know, maybe we didn't quite get this one right the first time. Let's look at it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? See, now we'll move on to officials and staff. City clerk?
Nothing, Your Honor.
City manager?
Nothing, Your Honor.
City attorney?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Finance director? DPW director?
Nothing, Your Honor.
City engineer?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Community development? That's it. Councilmember Cody?
Yes, I'd like to make a couple comments. My first comment would like to be addressed to the letter to the editor. I am the second district representative that was phoned, and unfortunately, I was out of the country, and I didn't return the call. When I did get home, I did return the call. Not only that, but I visited this place. But the point, there is a point here, and I agree with the gentleman's talking. On the sprinkling system, to pay for a readiness to serve in the winter months is not really fair. If we went for a summertime, like let's say for 6 months through the summertime, when it is being used, I agree with the readiness to serve and yeah, on the sprinkler. But when it's not being used, who sprinkles the lawn in the wintertime? That is a deadline. And not only that, most of the sprinkling systems are already teed off on an individual line. My water meter is already sized for that service coming in, and then I tee off with another sprinkling system. You can't deliver the amount of water through that second system, through the sprinkler system, with the other meter generating the same volume of water. So we're being jeopardized a little bit there. I agree that the sprinkling system meters should be reevaluated, and maybe readiness to serve for 6 months, and the other 6 months, none. That's my position, and I agree with the gentleman on the ready to serve. As far as the other rates, I'm not going to comment on that, but that's terrible on that readiness to serve on the sprinkling system. I think the council should reevaluate that.
Anything else?
Looking for support.
Support.
Fine with me.
It just makes
But
sense.
I don't think we can do anything tonight.
No.
No, but it is common sense.
We can start addressing the problem.
I voted no twice.
I think the council's directing that we take a second look at that.
We will do so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anything
None,
else?
nothing. I'm done for the evening. Outside, I did have a good fishing trip.
Good. Councilmember Hongo.
Yeah, I got one comment. I got a call from a couple citizens here last week to take a look at a certain blog on the computer of Mr. Gary Petulski. I think Mr. Petulski has insulted the citizens of Manistee. He's insulted this council. He's insulted every business owner when he put up a blog to tell businesses not to invest in Manistee. I think that's an insult, and I take offense to it. That's all I have.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
No, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Zarin.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Councilmember Whitliff.
A couple different things. The weed ordinance that we put in, drove by the old Hardy salt plant on Manistee, or on Nelson. The weeds are 3 feet high. Has anything like that been addressed?
Jeff?
Answer, no.
The old Hardy salt plant is a particularly tricky issue for us. We've sent letters out last year, and I'm sure we've sent them out this year. The problem is the recourse is for us to go in and cut it and take all that stuff down, but it would take weeks in manpower that we just don't have. So I'm not sure what the next course of action is, but we may need to speak with the police about it as well.
Do you know who owns the site?
General Chemical still owns it as far as I'm aware, and I think they sold off a small portion of it. We cut just the right of way in front of it to at least keep that back.
How about a sterilizing spray that kills and sterilizes the soil? It'd be kind of apropos for a company called General Chemical.
Yeah, that one I have not found the solution to.
Sorry,
we
Mitch.
can't put a lien on there because they're paying property taxes.
If we maintained it, I believe we could, but we don't have the resources to maintain it.
That's something we can look into? Okay, thank you.
Well, I think Councilmember Goodspeed kind of mentioned underneath his breath, can we have it hired done and rebuild back to the company? Have that done by an outside?
Contractor. We could, and then the city would front the money for that and then recoup it off the taxes.
I mean, that's something we can look into. Anything else?
A couple weeks ago, and some good news about Manistee. In the Saturday paper, July 19th, Lonnie Allen from the Pioneer Group wrote an article about downtown Manistee. He visited one of our restaurants, went to the Vogue, talked about the festivals throughout the year, Props and Hops, and the Christmas Festival. I have copies here if anybody wants them to take a look at, but I wish, I'd like to see something like this in the Real Manistee Facebook page rather than slams to the city.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Tell you about Judy Pelton's.
Councilmember Goodspeed, do you have anything?
I have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
If you call me, you get me. That's all I got to say.
I have nothing to add. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Support.
Meeting adjourned.
I have requested that information in the past, and so if that's something that council would like to see.